Hi, it's MJ Callaway here in my tiny bounce up studio. And today's conversation is with my guest, Lori Ball. She has a fascinating story and nonprofit that I can't wait for you to hear about. However, let's go ahead and say hi to Lori first. Hey, Lori, how are you?
Hey MJ, thanks so much for having me today.
I'm thrilled that you can be here today and we can discuss some really important things and what you do for others.
That sounds
How,
great.
before that, is it okay if I share a little bit about you with our viewers?
Of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Lori is an ovarian cancer survivor and the founder and partner of Faith and Gratitude. It's a nonprofit organization that provides empowerment and education to cancer patients and their caregivers. Lori is committed to bridging the gap between what is considered traditional standard of care treatment with a more holistic approach. And she understands the connection between mind, body, and spirit when faced with a health crisis. Very important for those. Lori, we have, unfortunately, some things in common that I wish neither of us have had. However, because of the journeys that we have had, we've been able to help others. Now, could you share with us first, how did you come up with Faith and Gratitude? Because I love that as a name because it is so true. Faith and gratitude is something that I know got me through, and I believe that is what was able to get you through too.
Oh, MJ, that's such a great question and a question that we often get, right? Because people will associate right away that we must be faith-based, religious, nonprofit. And we definitely have religious values at our core. But faith and gratitude are two words that honestly, for me, resonated very, very, very much. So faith in God and faith in myself that I would be able to turn that thing around, right? So a cancer diagnosis is a crisis, is a health challenge. And I felt that every single day, finding gratitude, finding something to be grateful for. Even if it was a reach, I opened my eyes, I was able to put my feet on the ground. That as simple as it sounds, that's the reason. It was through faith and gratitude, that I was able to propel and come out the other side.
And I love how you mentioned in there that faith isn't necessarily meaning religious based. It is spiritually based too. And that faith in oneself, but also would you say faith in the treatment working, faith in the journey, faith in the steps and the actions, faith in your doctors? I mean, there's faith that comes with everything.
Oh my gosh, MJ, it's so true. When you walk by faith, not sight, right? I mean, you're putting faith, as you know, into your oncologist, into the staff, into, in my case, all those people that were supporting me sort of unconventionally, right? So the people who were teaching me to meditate, the importance of journaling, all these other ancillaries that I embraced. So much so that, faith truly encompasses so much more than just one avenue or another. It's totally encompassing, and especially when faced with a crisis such as cancer.
Absolutely. So with it, you started this. So let me back up a second. It was 2015 that you were diagnosed and had your surgeries and started on this journey. And then in 2017, is that the year that you started your nonprofit?
It is. So what had happened in December of 2015 is when I knew there was a mass on my ovary. It's kind of serendipitous, really. There was so much that led up to me being able to really kind of self-diagnose even before I went to the gynecologist. So in December of 2015, actually was the week that our only child, a son, was turning 18. He was in his senior year of high school. And, this was just like the ball starts to roll, right? And we know how quickly it gains momentum. And in in January of 16 is when I had my complete hysterectomy. And I believe the time frame from the time I knew there was a mass definitively on December 16th of 15 till my surgery on January 19th of 2016, within that 30-day period, I was able to upend my life, but in a very good way. So everything that could have possibly contributed to my cancer diagnosis, whether or not that was true or not, I felt empowered to make some major changes. So we did. And as a family, we did. So I stopped eating sugar. I mean, I as I said, I embraced all these complementary sort of alternatives, some of them, but definitely complementary modalities. I embraced them so much so that I knew this was something that was more of a, not even a gentle nudge, but something over the years that has, was really kind of building. And I felt that it was my dad in heaven and God having a conversation that they needed to get my attention. Once again, she thinks she's on the path that she needs to be on, but she's not there. So we don't want to kill her, but we definitely want to get her back on the path that she's supposed to be traveling. So, I mean, all those sort of things were kind of playing into it. But yes, so I ended up having the surgery in January. I went through 18 consecutive weeks of chemotherapy, two very strong chemotherapies, one in my IV port and one every third week in my intraperitoneal port, in my IP port. Mm-hmm. So I finished my treatments in July, a few weeks later than anticipated, but we know how that goes. Sometimes our bodies and our bone marrow just can't keep up with the assault, right? So going through that, I was talking to other patients in the infusion room, and oftentimes you see the same ones, and you started to form a relationship with them. And, together we were saying that there should be something more we can do between treatments or between the next scan or between the next test. And so it was not just for me that I was feeling there was this big sort of a disconnect, but it was a gap that many other patients were feeling as well. So, so I knew there was something going on. So I thought, okay, that's what I need to do. I need to figure this out.
Absolutely. And there is such a big gap between what is traditional and what is holistic. And approaching it, because I was fortunate, my doctors believed in the holistic approach too, that combination. Not every doctor does. So, and that's what you are doing with your nonprofit. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. We designed and created a cancer resource guide that we actually give away for free. I mean, it's beautiful, and I'd be happy to share. We can meet sometime and we can talk about it. But this is the binder. Whoops. And it's full of just all kinds of information to keep the patient organized and to keep them educated on certain things that maybe they hadn't thought of before. And just little tips and tricks that if one thing resonates with them, then that's what it's meant to do. So yeah, we meet with them one-on-one. We host a bi-monthly support group. So it's everything that we do. We just give it away for the cancer patients.
That's awesome. And so needed today, just unbelievably. So I want to bounce to the book now. Sure. You are one of the contributors, in the book 21. And for viewers who are hearing about the book for the first time, it will launch on April 21st. And there are 21 women, hence the name 20, but instead of 21, the number one, it's WON. Now, Lori, what was the moment when Kelly, the project manager, reached out to you and said, hey, I'm pulling together 21 women, to talk about the difference they made in the year 2020 when everyone else was struggling? What did you do that had you, I call it, bounce up? So what was it when Kelly said, hey, do you want to be a part of this book? You said yes, and why?
I said yes. I was so humbled by even the thought of asking me, right? And it's through a dear friend, our mutual friend, Maria Brady, who introduced me to Kelly. And when she first sent the message to me, I think she may have called too. And not that I was hesitant, but I thought, I don't know, does my story resonate? And after having a conversation with Kelly, I felt that, it more than resonates because, so many people were paralyzed by the pandemic and not just, feeling as though paralyzed, but their businesses so faltered. And for, for whatever reasons, but we felt as from a nonprofit standpoint that the pivoting to, how are we going to reach our the patients, right, that depend on us, and how are we going to keep our donors who are loyal supporters of us that we've fostered. We wanted to be sure that everything that we were doing, what we were resolute, and we were going to continue to make a difference. And prior to 2020, we hosted cancer wellness speaker series and cancer wellness events. And we went to the communities where the cancer patients were, because as a cancer patient, I knew the importance of meeting them where they were, because of maybe they had a treatment day, then they weren't feeling so great, and all those sorts of things. So the biggest thing for me was being able to reach them, and how are we going to do that? So we quickly transitioned because we had to, and we developed a cancer wellness speaker series and reaching out to 3 very strong integrative cancer specialists that we had met attending conferences. So, and they came back to us, all 3 of them, right away, and said, of course, they wanted to be part of the project. So that's what we did. So we pivoted, and we pivoted quickly. And we were able to put together a wonderful series. And people, so instead of just Southwestern Pennsylvania now, our reach, because of our pivot, has truly increased geographically. So we had people on our on these particular calls or these particular series, viewing from all over the world. So it was a very exciting time for us. We didn't know, how it would work, but it seemed to work just fine.
And that was a huge pivot for you, because at the beginning of 2020, you had something else in mind. So, and can you share that with the viewers so that they understand what a big pivot it was for you and your organization?
Of course. So every January, February, my partner and I, we come up with our calendar of events for the year. So we're looking at not just outreach programs to cancer patients, but also how are we going to fund the organization for the following year, which is outreach to donors, right, to business sponsorships and the like. So we had just finished our planning meeting, and it was set in stone, and we reached out to the board. Everything was approved. It was great. We're good to go. We go away to a conference end of February, beginning of March, and there's all this talk about this virus and the anxiety that you could just feel building, with the people you're talking to at the conference. And we came back in March to an upended, truly. What were we going to do? How were we going to pivot? So, yeah, so our year started out with, it seemed perfect, just the way 2020 rolled off the tongue. I mean, it just felt so perfect. And it just seemed that it was upended so quickly. But we did it.
You did. And what a pivot. And as you said, even though the pandemic caused a lot of heartache and a lot of anxiety for a lot of people, for your organization, you were able to take that reach and expand it because you went virtual, which, until we faced a pandemic, people weren't as up for doing virtual. They weren't as positive whenever it came to attending virtual events. But now, it's part of our world today, which gave you an opportunity.
Oh, it was a huge opportunity, and truly faced with that, right? I mean, we just had to sort of take a step back and take a deep breath and just, kind of pull up your bootstraps and handle it. So we did.
Now, for our viewers who are listening, what is a strategy or tip that you could give to them that can help them when they are faced with, because you were faced with not only, the diagnosis back in 2015 and making all those changes, but now in 2020, facing changes because of your organization and how the pandemic played out. What is a tip that you would suggest to someone to help them make that shift or that pivot?
So I think this sounds cliche maybe, but being flexible, being nimble with your business plan, and feeling as though that, things that are set in stone aren't always. And I think just having the people around you to support that, because it can be a little overwhelming when you have a plan set, and through no problems of your own, it becomes upended. So I really believe that, looking outside of oneself and just being able to have that flexibility of mind, and the nimbleness, I don't even know if that's a word, but just be able to regroup and refocus, and then reimagine, just how your year could look. So yeah, I think that would be the biggest thing, is just to be able to have the flexibility and to realize that you do have that, and reimagine.
Love that reimagine. Awesome. Now, I know, Lori, there has to be similarities between the pandemic and also between cancer and a nonprofit. Similarities or a word, there has to be some parallels between all of that. Would you agree? And what would you say is the parallel between them?
So that's a good question. So I would say the parallel between a cancer diagnosis and navigating that, and then also navigating a pandemic, is tenacity. And just being able to have the tenacity just to look beyond and know that, yeah, I mean, it looks like it's a crisis, right? And it looks like it's a never ending, but there is that light, and there is that, push to do something a little more and to expand. I think expand. Yeah, I think so.
That's awesome. And that also goes back to what we talked about in the beginning, faith that this will get better, because you embody that faith and that belief in getting something better in the end.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's such a, when you think about the word, and we'll go back to that for just another moment. It just felt that there was no way that you weren't going to get through it. You were going to get through it. So the same thing with your cancer diagnosis, and with this crazy pandemic that we were facing. We knew we would get through it. But for a couple of minutes, you're thinking, but how? But how? But we did, and I did. So here we are.
Yes. Now, how would you say is a good way to get a hold of you if our viewers are interested in either, Faith and Gratitude, your nonprofit, or you personally? What is the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so reaching out on our website, and our website is www.faithandgratitude.org. And they can always contact me directly also. I can give you my email address, Lori@faithandgratitude.org.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lori, for being my guest today. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything that you have shared. And I wish you and your nonprofit, Faith and Gratitude, many, many blessings ahead.
Thanks, MJ. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. All right, this is MJ Callaway signing out. Remember, make it a bounce up day.